Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Shantae Javon Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist, and you are having coffee with a neuroscientist. Welcome, welcome. The topic of today is the neuroscience of authenticity. The neuroscience of authenticity. And we're going to take a deeper dive into this term that people throw around called being your authentic self. But we're going to look at it through the lens of the brain. What is the brain doing? Why is it important for us to express ourselves at the most authentic level? I really think the world is craving a deeper level of engagement, a deeper why, and a more powerful way to navigate this very complicated human experience. So, I'm actually going live in several places because I want to optimize my time and energy. Welcome, Instagram. You're having coffee with the neuroscientist, and we are discussing the neuroscience, the brain science behind being authentic. So grab your coffee, grab your tea or choice of drink and come hang out with me for a few minutes. I'll do my utmost to respond to your questions, but I know I'm going to get into the flow of talking about this subject that's been an epiphany for me over the years, expressing my authentic self. And I'm a testament to the changes that can be made, to the power of operating in your authentic self. If you feel like you are already operating at this powerful level, I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole of why you feel so empowered. And if you are still seeking to operate at the highest level of yourself, at the full expression of your authentic self, this live stream, this training is going to help you to finally figure out what you need to do and why you need to start operating at this level. All right, you got something to drink? Let's do it. All right, so have you ever felt in a moment that you were suppressing your true words, your true thoughts, your true emotions? Everybody should be saying yes, because there has been a time, whether you've been at work, in a group, in a social setting, where something came to your mind, something may have come to your heart. Maybe you came up with an idea, but for whatever reason, you didn't feel safe to express it. You didn't feel like the culture that was around you in that moment was a place where you can express yourself. When you do that, some powerful changes are happening in your brain, and not for the good. All right. So I want you to think about this. I want you to take something home with you right away. I want you to process this. It takes more mental energy to be who you are not than to be who you are. Let me say that again. It takes more mental energy to be who you are not than to be who you are. Why do I say that? We are emotional beings. We're also very logical beings. So what does that mean? That means we have brain regions responsible for both types of beings, both types of behaviors, right? So we have a whole cortex here. We have a prefrontal cortex. I call it the leadership brain, right? That's our logical brain. That's the most modern brain that we operate from, that separates us from our animal brothers and sisters. Okay, it's a source of our executive functioning, being able to focus, have attention, and look forward into the future. Being able to manage our thoughts and emotions all come from this prefrontal cortex. But then we have this beautiful emotional brain here. Okay, we have fancy words in neuroscience for it, but let's just call it the emotional brain for now. And the emotional brain is very important. It's very powerful. It's more ancient than our prefrontal cortex. Okay, but there's a time and a place where one or the other needs to reign. Okay, I know you often hear, don't be emotional. So I'm actually doing a live stream in multiple areas, multiple platforms. So if it doesn't seem like I'm giving you direct attention, you know why. Okay. So, anywho, we are logical and emotional beings. Okay. So that means we need to learn more about how our powerful brains operate. We can actually navigate and optimize and consciously activate different parts of our brains because we know so much more about the brain. Okay. So there's a lot of research that has came out over the last 20 years from a lot from the UCs. I'm kind of partial because I'm a UCLA graduate, but from Dr. Lieberman's lab, there's lots of research and brain imaging on emotional, social, cognitive neuroscience studies in San Francisco, UC San Francisco. So we know a lot more about the brain in this human part of our experience. Okay. So we all should know how to operate our brains a little bit better. And authenticity is real. We're struggling with this idea of authenticity, especially within organizations, right? How many times have you been in a meeting where you didn't feel comfortable expressing your thoughts, your ideas, and even your emotions? Okay. And I'm here to say it can be detrimental for how you show up in the world, how you show up for that job, but it's also it also affects the observer of you as you are trying to suppress who you really are. Okay. So let's talk about some of these things. So what happens when you're not your authentic self? You ready? You all have your coffee with the neuroscientist? All right. So what's happening? There is a part of your prefrontal cortex, the most advanced part of the brain. I'm gonna say the science term, and I'm gonna never say it again, people. It's the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. Let's just say ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. Okay. So what it is from now on, I'm gonna say it's the braking system. It's like literal brakes for your brain. Okay. And if you think about brakes being on a car, what does that do for you? It helps you to keep from crashing into things, right? It helps you to stop. So we have an organic braking system in the highest part of our brain that helps us to inhibit our thoughts, our emotions, our words, and our behaviors. Okay. So it's a good thing to have that, but there are some caveats to that. Okay. When we use this braking system, it is an energy hungry beast. Okay, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, the leader of the brain, it uses up a lot of energy. The brain overall uses up the most energy of all the organs in the body. Just a side note, but your prefrontal cortex is a particular hungry, energy hogging beast. So every time we have to put the braking system, every time we have to use our braking system, we are wearing down our ability to keep pushing on the brakes. It's like we have braking pads, right, on our brakes, and eventually they get worn down, right? And over time, you can't use them. Well, when we talk about how fast the brain operates, we're wearing them down even more the more we have to use our braking system. Okay. Does that make sense so far? I see comments coming through, so I'm gonna start looking at comments. Yay, some people made it. Yay. I can't see your faces yet because you have to grant StreamYard access. All right. So think about it. You're going through your day. Okay. You're going through your day being your inauthentic self. You're stopping your ideas. You're stopping your words. You're trying to inhibit your emotions. Maybe you're trying to suppress your excitement for something because you just came up with an idea, but you can't share it because you don't think people will receive it. Or maybe you had experiences where people don't appreciate your ideas, or there's a lack of respect in the culture, in the community, in the organization. So every time you have to inhibit yourself from expressing yourself, your brain has to use up mental energy to stop you from saying the things that really are coming up for you, your authentic self. Does that make sense? So over time, you start to feel mentally worn out. And it's expressed as being stressed out, being burnt out, because because your ventral lateral prefrontal cortex, your braking system in the brain, has to constantly be pushing on the brakes to suppress your true emotions, your true thoughts, your true behaviors, and the true self of how you want to show up in that moment in time. Okay? This is the real reason most people are burnt out, because we're going through years and years of being our inauthentic selves. We're trying to color inside the lines. We're trying to be that job description, be that role description, mother, father, wife, whatever your roles are. We're trying to fit into that, right? And sometimes we're not able to fully express ourselves in those roles. So I just want to reiterate that it takes more mental energy to suppress who you really are than to just show up and express your authentic selves. There is brain science behind it. And guess what? When your braking system gets worn out, your emotional brain gets heightened. Mainly what we've seen in brain scans is that your amygdala gets activated. And that amygdala is that threat brain, it's that survival brain, it's that brain that it steers you down towards negative thoughts and feelings. And if you don't have the braking system operating, guess what? You're going to continue down the spiral. Okay. And then that's how you're going to continue to show up in the world. So it takes more mental energy to be who you are not. And so when the amygdala is activated, when your emotional brain is activated, it is stealing precious mental resources from all over the brain. Okay, that means it's stealing resources from your creative right brain. It's stealing resources from your ability to focus and pay attention. So if you are in the moment, because really, everyone, all we have is the present moment, and you're in the conversation and you're actively trying to suppress your next set of words that you really want to say, you're itching to say, but you're suppressing it. You are taking away mental resources that would help you to focus on the conversation. So in that moment, it's not even serving you to keep your authentic self suppressed, to keep your true thoughts and ideas suppressed, because you lose focus, you lose attention, you lose the conversation, your memory is affected in that moment. So it's like a downward spiral anyways. So you might as well show up in your full authentic self and express yourself in the present moment as your true self, because you'll ward off long-term stress and burnout, and your memory will be stronger. You'll have more cognitive resources available for your higher modern brain that should be leading in the first place. You'll be more likely to tame those automatic negative thoughts, the ants in your brain. So there's repercussions for not expressing your true self. You won't have the capacity. You won't have the capacity to sustain at a healthy level in your everyday life, because eventually being your inauthentic self will become habit. It will become just who you are. And you'll be chronically stressed, chronically burnt out, but you'll blame it on everything else. Okay? There's another part of the brain, of the brakes in your brain, that gets activated subconsciously when we are suppressing ourselves. So you may not even be consciously suppressing your thoughts and actions, but because it being inauthentic became habit for you, your unconscious braking system is still activated. inhibiting your true expression of yourself, which means you're still burning through your mental energy, which means your prefrontal cortex is still declining in its functioning. And the prefrontal cortex, that leadership brain, and the emotional brain, it's like a teeter-totter. When one goes up, when one gets activated, the other one goes down, right? So it's more important for you in this lifetime, in this era of our human journey, to be the full expression of yourselves, because it's not conducive to how the brain operates. The brain wants to be free. It wants you to operate in the full expression of yourselves and not use your mental energy to suppress who you really are. Because in doing that, you make your brain worse. You make it be able to function optimally. And I truly believe that the next phase of this human journey, this human evolution, is our ability to use the brain at optimal levels that's in alignment with our authentic selves. And now you know why. Now you know the brain science. Now you know the deeper science behind becoming and being and operating in your authentic self. That's you operating in your authentic brain power. If you want to become more powerful, if you want more capacity, mental capacity, energy capacity, you're going to start operating in your full expressed self, the highest version of you, the fullest expression of your brain power. All right. Coffee with the neuroscientist. You haven't heard it like this before, people. I guarantee, it's about connecting the dots and understanding the brain, understanding brain science in modern times closes a lot of gaps in knowledge and understanding of this human experience. So it's really important to start to go on this journey of understanding the brain, but not just randomly. There's a systematic way to learn everything, even reading, right? What do? We learned our ABCs first. We learn sounds. We learn phonetics, right? The brain, learning about the brain is similar. There's certain sequences of knowledge that will allow you to optimally be able to take on this most important knowledge of the brain so that you can operate at the highest version of your human existence and experience. When we get to the level where we are all optimally operating our own brains, because everybody's brain is a little bit different for your own journey, that's when you're going to see so many changes and epiphanies and insights and clarity. You'll get more clarity on what you need to do in this next phase of you. But you have to be operating in alignment. You have to be operating in your authentic self just to free up the mental resources so that you can get to that next level of clarity and be able to see the next steps on your journey so you can evolve into the highest version of yourself. It's an absolute necessity for you to operate in your authenticity if you really want to make the next leap into that your higher self. So people have been on the journey for a long time trying to get to the higher version of themselves. The missing link, people, is understanding your brain. The missing link is operating at a higher level of your brain power. And being authentic is the key to that formula. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. You might have to watch it again, people, because I said a lot and I could say more. I can take you deeper. So I just want to also explain that when you are not operating in your authentic self, you are affecting other people, even though you may not think of it, but think about it. So we actually have research studies that show subjects were taught or told to suppress their true emotions right? And when they did that, they saw activation in their emotional brain, their amygdala. But then they also measured the physiology of the observer who was watching watching the subject suppress his emotions. Their amygdala activated and their blood pressure went up because there's a part of the brain that can pick up on the expectations of people. Okay. So when you're busy, all these micro expressions that you have of trying to suppress who you are is picked up by the observer, right? So now the observer is uncomfortable. Their blood pressure is going up. Their threat brain is activated because something's up with this person. So you may be thinking, I'm just going to not say what I really want to say. You think you're doing yourself a favor. Now you know you're not, but you're also putting other people off. Okay. We have an impact on other people's brains. If you want to know more about that, I did a whole TEDx talk on it. Change the world, change your brain, change the world. How we are affecting other people's brains, whether we are intentional or conscious of it or aware of it or not, we are. And being our authentic selves is the same way. When we are suppressing who we are, people pick up on it. So now, if it becomes a habit of being inauthentic for you over the years, guess what? Now you probably have a trail of inauthentic relationships, of awkward relationships. So sometimes people say, I'm socially awkward. I mean, that may be the case, but is it you're socially awkward because you're not being your authentic self? That could be a reason. Okay. So process that, explore that, start, reflecting on past events, past relationships, times where you felt in the moment where you were consciously suppressing yourself, and think about the emotions that were coming up for you. Think about the thoughts. Were you resentful? Were you angry? Think back to other people's responses. So this may take some time, especially if you've been in this inauthentic skin for a long time, right? It takes time to go back and allow your brain to uncover, bring up those times when you were consciously holding back yourself. And it's not going to feel good, people, when you do reflect. I'm just letting you know, spoiler alert, you may not want to go back there, but you have to go back there because you can't move forward if you don't know where you've been. And it's harder to move forward when you don't understand the deeper why of what's happening in your brain when you are being inauthentic. Okay? All right. This has been Coffee with the Neuroscientist, Shante Javon Taylor. Thank you all for your comments. I'm going to go back and look at your comments and respond and all that good stuff. I am doing big things in 2022. There are several ways that you can go deeper with me. I just put the neuroscience behind authenticity. I can put the neuroscience behind just about every single human condition, issue, problem, or aspiration. Okay? Because we all have one thing in common. The brain and this human experience has to go through the brain first. Even our emotions, even our heart centers have to go up into the brain and be distributed, interpreted, travel throughout the brain so that you can then have a response for the outside world. We're not getting through this human experience, people, without understanding the brain more powerfully, period. That is where our morale is, our willpower, and that has to be amplified. Our compassion, our empathy, that's the next level of this human evolution. And being authentic is a huge part of that. It's a huge part of that dynamic of our human evolution. Okay. We've survived, right? We know how to get our food. We know how to mate. That's basic. It's time for us to evolve our empathy, and our compassion and start realizing that we are connected to one another. We are responsible for one another. We impact other people's brains and they are impacting ours. That's the collective mind. All right. But everyone needs to be empowered about how their own brain operates. And I don't believe that I am going to be able to empower 7 billion people plus on the planet about their brains, which is why I run a whole Optimind certification program for coaches and leaders and influencers to understand the brain and think like a neuroscientist, but be the coach and leader that they are. And I run that several times a year. If you are connected to me, you will start to see those offerings. Okay. I also help people to get the best out of their brain, their strengths, their talents, their passion, and package them, monetize their mind. Okay. Monetizing your mind is not about you making $1 bajillion. That's not what it's about. When you're thinking about monetizing your mind, that means you are extracting the best parts of your mind, the most important parts of your mind that will be activated and really fulfill you in such a way that you can be confident and putting it out there in the world, because you can make widgets, but if you're not passionate about it, if you're not good at it, you're going to give up. So there has to be a formula. It's called Ikigai, by the way, the Japanese philosophy of finding purpose. You have to be doing something you're good at, that you're passionate about, that the world needs, and being able to make a living off of it. Why is that last piece important? The last piece is important because if you're not making money off of your passion and purpose and things that you're good at, that means you're making money in an area where you're not passionate and something that you may not be good at. That means you're spending most of this lifetime on stuff that doesn't bring you joy or fill you up. And over time, that affects the brain. So it's important to set the rest of your life up to where you are bringing fulfillment and joy purposefully into the world and be able to take care of your needs. That's what monetize your mind is. I know there's other people who say, create a course and package your knowledge and all of this. I'm going to a deeper level. Monetizing your mind will set you up for a more fulfilling experience for the next chapter of your life, for the rest of your life, because you're able to bring all of you to the table, all of your strengths, all of your gifts, all that you are passionate about. Because if the brain is not able to express itself, we just talked about being inauthentic, right? If the brain is not able to express itself, there are consequences. There are mental consequences. You get the wrong concoction of neurochemicals that send you in a downward spiral over time. That's not evolving as a human. All right. So one of the things I do is I help people to monetize their mind. That is one of my programs. You should be watching it, seeing me talk about it all over the internet as well. I will also be offering in 2022 special secret Neuroscience Club white papers. So that is a monthly membership where I go deep into topics like this in a newsletter form that can only be received if you are a part of the Neuroscience Club. Okay. So be looking out for that. And like I said, I can give the neuroscience behind any human idea, condition, struggle, or aspiration, but not just bring the neuroscience. I help you to apply it in the real world. Being authentic in the real world is important. And I told you why. I told you what happens in your brain to your thoughts, your memory, your ability to access your creative ideas. I told you how it affects other people to make them feel weird and awkward, and you even affect their physiology. Their blood pressure goes up when they're watching you not express your true self. We're responsible for each person that we come into contact with. I know that's a lot of responsibility, people, but we are responsible. And until we come to that place, we're not going to be able to collectively grow as a human species. We won't be able to go to the next level of this human experience. We're going to be stuck in this like zone between modern and primitive. Okay. So are you ready to go to the next journey? I'm planting the seeds. If this is the first time you're listening to me, hearing me, I'm planting seeds in your brain today. And you have created new dimensions in your brain and you will not be able to return. Your alerts are up. Your awareness is up. You'll know where to find me when you're ready to go to the next part, on the next part of your journey more powerfully by understanding your beautiful brain and operating in your brain power in the most authentic manner, in the most authentic way. I am Shante Javon Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist. You have Coffee with the Neuroscientist. I also have a podcast called, you guessed it, Coffee with the Neuroscientist. So make sure you go listen to those podcast episodes and give me some reviews and likes and all that good stuff. And I look forward to sharing more and connecting with you on your next journey to become the most powerful, authentic part expression of you. All right. Remember, when you better your mind and better your brain, you will become more authentic and the fullest expression of you on this human experience. Take care, everyone.